Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the modern market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and the Bitcoin all-time high market. Congrats. Happy Bitcoin all-time high day. Although it doesn't really feel the same as last time. Feels kind of expected. And yeah, feels like this is what we deserve. Getting pretty used to it. Very good to see that. Loaded up discussion today. We do have a conversation on the Bitcoin all-time high. Went as high as 106K for a bit before it pulled back to 104K. Also talking AI agents, AI agent marketplace virtuals pushes towards an all-time high there. Also AIXBT, the top agent, is nearing its all-time high at 300 million as well. All-time highs across the board in the AI sector. I want to discuss that. And finally, on the NFT side, Pudgy Penguins hit a 35 ETH floor before a pullback to 32 ETH. So we'll be getting into that in just a little bit as well. Also, as usual, got the latest on price action in crypto and NFTs, plus a general discussion on opportunities in the market, what's catching our attention. So stay tuned for that. We've got Bread Guy and Sammy locked in today in the co-host seats. We're ready to get into it. But just a reminder, friends, that nothing that we say here is financial advice, because this market is very, very risky and we don't know anything for sure. So please proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Bread, it is Monday. It is the 16th of December. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
Feeling great. Coming off the weekend, although it's pretty hectic with just like general stuff. You guys have seen some of the mega stuff going on. We have the quiz, which obliterated my DMs, and we had a raise. So there's a lot going on. Not much of a weekend for me, but I am in Italy still, which is something to be excited about. I'm on Lake Como. It's very pretty, kind of cold, but very pretty. So just enjoying that.
Very nice. I mean, you brushed over it pretty quickly, but Lake Como seems to be a nice location for a little bit of a celebration on the raise. On Friday, that happened. A lot of people, and we weren't able to talk about it on the show because I think you were dropping out. How was that for you? Do you want to just let people know how that felt?
Yeah. So, I mean, we were talking a little bit about before the show. The complexities of that is just that, we can't talk about it, right? We literally, not only
We not
was
talk about
I,
it after either. Just checking.
what was that?
Can we not talk about it now either?
No, we can. So once it's public, we can actually talk about the deals. Like that's the deal with Echo, right? And
Yeah.
like that, but that's what, so like I also literally couldn't talk because my internet sucked and that was annoying. But then I like, due to regulation, we as a team could not mention anything that was going on the platform until it was closed, right? No non-public information, whatever. That's just like how Echo works. So it's a little nerve-wracking going into it. It materialized really quickly, and then we just like kind of fired it and hoped it went out well. And yeah, we broke records, so it's exciting.
Very, very exciting. We'll be speaking a little bit more about that through the week at some point in time. Sammy, how are things your side? How's your weekend? How are things?
Good. Well, I actually took that Mega ETH test, and it's incredibly difficult.
It's hard,
So
isn't it?
I think I'm full on mid curve or whatever the label was, but yeah, distinctly average. But you absolutely smashed it.
Both of you guys did better than normal. I think that I tallied it. That normal is like 40%, 42% ish, which is underneath 50. 50 was like the mid curve cutoff. So yeah, you guys both beat it. It was tougher than we even thought.
So just to give you context, if people have no idea what we're talking about, Bread and the Mega ETH team created this community quiz to take. There was 100 questions that need to be completed.
For crypto natives.
Crypto native, yeah, very, very crypto native quiz. And it was hard. It was really, really hard. 100 questions, 30 minutes. I think Sam got 51. I got 59. After I saw the average, I was like, okay, that's a win. I was super happy with that. So it turns out the mid curve is actually a pretty good curve to be on in that case, Brett.
Well, I think the time pressure as well was probably the main thing, because I was just taking my time going through it, and I looked at the time. I had like 3 minutes left, and I was on like question 80. I was like, "Fuck, I'm not going to complete this." So I just rushed through the final 20. It was good quiz.
Yeah, we can't let it be AI-able. That's always the curveball, right? These days.
AI resistant quiz, quantum resistant quiz built by Mega. Good stuff. Look, let's get into it. We've got a lot to talk about today. Want to discuss a little bit when we talk about the opportunities, like the different sectors that seem to be strongest, maintaining the all-time highs. That's why we will be talking about Bitcoin, AI, and pudgy penguins as part of the headlines today. But let's get you up to speed first with the general market, starting with price action. As always, we have Bitcoin up about 1.5% to $104,000. That went to as high as 106 before a little pullback. It's up 5.5% on the week, which is much more than every other major. I'll tell you those in a second. ETH is up 1% to 3.9K. Also touched 4K overnight, I think. And Solana is down 1% to $214. Just so you know the performance over the week, because the majors have kind of dislocated from each other. Bitcoin's up 5%, ETH is flat over 7 days, and Solana is down 5%. So Bitcoin, once again, outperforming at the moment. Getting into the meme side of things very quickly, we have, that is not the memes, just showing this on screen for the people who want to watch in for some reason. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong screen here. Let me get into the memes. Here we go. We have Doge down 1%, still around that 40-cent mark. We've got Pepe down 1%, Bonks down 3%, Whiff's down 5% to 260. Remember, Whiff went on a huge run up before to around $3 something. So that's down quite a bit. But that's kind of in keeping with all the memes, to be honest. Mog's down 1%, Popcat's down 3% to $1.07. Obviously, still $1 billion market cap, but yeah, that was as high as $2 not so long ago. Fartcoin again is outperforming everything, up 23% in the last 24 hours. AI16Z not down too much, only down 3%, but in the week it's up 60%. So again, the key trend here, what we're noticing is on the meme side of things, although I don't know if they should be classified as the memes, so the AI stuff is performing better than the pure memes from what we can tell. Although I would know SPX, Murad's coin, is up 14% and up 23% on the week. Okay, so that's the roundup from the meme side. Let's get into the headlines themselves. As you mentioned, Bitcoin's hit an all-time high as 106K before pullback to 104. AI agent marketplace Virtuals pushes towards its all-time high at 3 billion fully diluted valuation, as top agent AIXBT is also moving towards an all-time high at $300 million valuation, whilst Pudgy Penguins hit a 35 ETH floor over the weekend before it pulled back to around 32 ETH at the moment. That was on 20,000 ETH volume in the week last week, reported by Tyler. The floor was up almost 50% in the week. So outstanding performance for that asset. Some notable sales. Xcopy Doom Party sold for 180 ETH, showing that on screen if you're watching in. 2 Pudgy Penguin Ice traits sold for 100 ETH and 125 ETH respectively. I think another one sold for 100 ETH actually. And there were a couple of others in the 60 to 70 ETH region. So you're seeing those rarities be rewarded. Just for the rest of the NFT market, a quick look across the board. We have little Pudgy, well, everything's actually just down a touch, right? Pudgy Penguins is down actually to 30 now. Okay, so that's actually moved in the last little bit. So Pudgy Penguins is down 10% to 30. Little Pudgy is down to 3.8. Azuki, on the other hand, is up 11% to 10.7. Mocaverse is up 35% to 2.43. That's on the back of their coin getting listed to the South Korean exchange. And it literally did a 3 to 4x in one candle, although it's pulled back to around 2 billion FDV now. Doodles is down 6%, although its run up in the last 7 days has been pretty huge as well. One Doodle cost 4.5 ETH. Shout out to the Doodles team, seeing that increased performance. We've also got Sappy Seals up a few percent, VFriends up 60%, Milady's up 6%, still holding a 6 ETH floor. Shout out to Chimpers as well, actually, plus 24% to 0.72 ETH. Good stuff there. Okay, so that's what's going on the NFT side. A few other bits of news from around the space. Peanut owner Mark Longo issues cease and desist to Binance. Peanut's down 4% on that news. Market doesn't seem to price that in too much. As I mentioned, Moca, the Mocaverse token was listed on the South Korean exchange Upbit, causing a 3x to a 4 billion FDV. It's since pulled back around, kind of given up about half of those gains because it literally just went up in one candle, which is pretty outrageous. Hype, got to touch on Hype these days, hit $27 with a market cap of $8.9 billion. It was up 15% in 24 hours. It's pulled back just a touch, but as you know, you could not have missed the Hype chart at the moment. Is just something to behold. Up only in general. And then finally, something which you should be aware of if you've been fairly crypto native and transacting on the timeline quite a lot. Odos announced an increase of eligible wallets for their airdrop. It's increased to 38k wallets that are now eligible, and an expansion of rewards by 1%. I actually noticed a bunch of my wallets, which I wasn't even aware was eligible for that airdrop. So if you've been transacting either through Odos itself or even some of the bridges where you can transact, that actually gets you, that might have made you eligible for that. So do have a check there. Right, that's it. That's the Web3 roundup. That's the NFT market roundup. That is the headlines themselves. Before we get into the main stuff for today, Sam, is there anything that's catching your attention from these other bits of news? I've got a feeling I know what direction you're going to go in. What do you think?
I'll park the AI stuff for a little bit later on, so we're going to cover that with virtuals. But I think Moca's interesting. I mean, they had a 4x off the Upbit listing, but there was also Binance perps that it got as well, and also BitThumb. So there's a few exchange listings off the back of each other, potentially coordinated, but that's always good. I think the thesis there hasn't really changed. It's still like a reputation layer that they're building out through their Realm SDK stack. And I think that's going to become even more important as the AI narrative kind of proliferates. I think determining what's AI and what's not using the blockchain is going to become a pretty powerful tool. And they're obviously well funded and well resourced to kind of deliver that. And just a second point on the hype stuff, like I'm starting to see like the chart is just up only, and there are references to effectively being the Binance of this cycle. And I could definitely see that, like even with the virtuals pumping to new all-time highs, like that was partly because they had the ability to long short virtuals on Hyperliquid. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that, and I'd be curious to see if there is some sort of launch pad eventually for that hype token, in which case I don't know where that thing goes, but I think it's massively undervalued if that is the case. But curious to see how that evolves, and that's becoming a key narrative as well.
By launchpad, do you mean creating the same product as Binance in the sense that you can stake BNB and then get rewarded by all these other people who are launching on hype? So you say like create staking for the hype token and then have all these other projects like direct rewards to them.
Yeah, so like you list your token on hype, you get exposure through their launchpad or whatever by staking hype, and then I think that could be a really good like value proposition to holding the token. And to be honest, everyone's holding and bidding it anyway, so it's just going to continue going up. So I don't know the direction they're actually going to go, but that to me makes sense.
2 points on that, because I'm fairly well informed on this. I do have a hype position which is growing at the moment. I listened to a lot, like I've listened and read a lot. The two things on that. One, from what I've read and heard, the team do not give away the information of their specific plans like in an insider way beforehand. So what you just described is not known. Although point two is that is definitely what people are hoping for, and that it would seem to be the logical like next set of steps for them to take. So we don't know if that's going to happen. Just to be clear, there's not been any formal communication of any of that. However, that does seem to be what people think would be the next logical steps. That's the next logical steps that I think would make most sense too, and for them to capitalize on this wonderful position that they're in, right, where people are absolutely hungry for their token and for people to be building out on their chain when that's ready. So interesting stuff there.
And I think the whole like fee earning mechanism and buying back their token is a really powerful model that I think other protocols could potentially use as well. Obviously, it comes down to how successful their launch is. But if you look at like Moca's doing a similar thing with staking power, like you stake the Moca token, you can get access to Moca drops. They had Kit Protocol recently, which is like 50 million, and they had 100 million tokens. I can't remember what valuation that is at, but that's distributed to Moca holders. You've got Meme Land with their staking site. You've got there's just a number of other protocols that are doing it. I just think hype could be extremely successful at it.
Yeah, I agree with all those things. Do you know what I'm thinking about a lot? And this is before we get into the bigger discussions today and before we get into the main headlines. I want to throw to you, Brett, as well for your kind of thoughts before we get there too. I'm just starting to think, I'm starting to attach a disproportionate value to wealthy founders. And I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this. The hype guys don't need money. and therefore there wasn't a need to raise from VCs, and therefore there isn't a need for them to sell their tokens and consider this to be their like exit liquidity event, the time that they get to make it. And even if you think back to Bitcoin, I appreciate these are just two examples. Like Satoshi's coins, maybe there are other Satoshi wallets, but they're all there, right? They're all there in that second. Is it the second highest wallet now? Because I think BlackRock might have overtaken it, but they're all there. And all of these projects, maybe even Bitcoin itself, if you think back, like if the founder, if the person with the most wallets decides to nuke the chart, and we see this all the time because you have these pump fund style launches all the time, where if the early people can't be trusted to hold, you can like ruin an idea, you can ruin a concept, you can ruin the potential of something if the early holders can't be trusted to hold. And so I'm starting to attach a great weight to this. Sam, maybe coming to you first because you were talking about it. Am I like attaching too much weight to that? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, you even look at it in the equities world. Like you have Jeff Bezos selling some of his Amazon stock recently. Like that caused a hoo-ha. But obviously, if he holds it for a long period of time, that market cap is so big that him selling is not going to move the chart too much. And I think you have to have that with any token. It has to mature to a certain size where these founders have significant stakes in those protocols to then be able to sell. And it's the same with like the devs on Pump Fund. Like you also look to see when they sell so that you know that they're not going to nuke the chart, and then you can get an entry in at a later stage. So it's like, well, inevitably, I think it makes sense from like a tokenomics perspective. But I agree with you. I think it's a really good thesis. Like if they don't need the money, they're probably more interested in the product doing well for the reputation rather than actually making more money. And at some point, like if you have so much money, you're not going to really care.
Yeah.
You made me check Vitalik. He's got $930 million of ETH, by the way.
Yeah, fair point. Brad, do you have a thought on that?
Just like the hype direction and whether that like, yeah, like I think what you're describing is momentum, right? Like, yeah, you can absolutely create a momentum of a given thing, whether that's actual on the chart momentum or sentiment momentum or whatever. If you just, full stack Hitler, I believe is the term these days. So yeah, I think it's all valid points. And yeah, having money helps, surprisingly enough. That seems to be the takeaway here.
It's funny though, because obviously we're in a space where it's so equalizing in many ways, and crypto is more democratic in certain ways, and yet it seems to be like that can be, not in maybe in all cases, but it can be a very important factor in the establishment of like something new. Again, not in all cases. I definitely think it's a huge factor for hype. At least one of the things. The product's also excellent. So let's just, not saying that the product's not there either. Okay, Brad, I think you had a couple of things you wanted to pick out before we get into the main conversation today too.
Yeah, I'll run through those few. Like one is just like general reflections on Pudgy's being successful, or at least achieving this next tier that they've seemingly hit. And for me, that is just like, yeah, like the words I wrote down, right? NFTs are proven, right? Like we've always questioned, like, are they going to come back? Is it a proper vehicle for what the stuff is? And like we can say that Pudgy's and Bored Apes and Punks are like isolated incidences, but like Pudgy's being beyond the historical narrative thing and being successful, people are driving money, value, whatever to it. Like I think in my mind, it validates that like it is or can be a successful model for stuff. And it's just good to see that happening. So like it validates the entire asset class for me. Like it's not going to be maybe as prevalent as like coins, just like straight up coins, but it does that for me. The second was the peanut thing. Like I'm seeing this guy interact all like doing all this shit, right? Like he did the cease and desist, he's doing all this stuff. And prior to Peanut, like he was not like, I wonder how ingrained he was in crypto or blockchain. And like now he's getting to the point where he's issuing cease and desist, he's launching separate tokens, he's like doing all of this like deep shit. And like that, like this is how the web grows for crypto. Like money and incentives wraps you in, and then all of a sudden this dude is now like, this is his life. He's coin man. And then another one was just Odos, that airdrop. I actually talked to OX NGMI, who's the creator of DeFi Llama. He talked about like, if you use that bridge, you got that stuff. And I was like, well, if you have Moca wallets, like shit, man, like I need you to create a tool to check my airdrop for me that you gave me because you use Odos in the background without stuff. He's like, yeah, cool, we're going to do that. And they already spun up over like 2 days, multiple address airdrop checker for Odos for you. So I would recommend people go to DeFi Llama to check if you do have an allocation for that across multiple addresses.
Absolutely. I'm actually going to share a tweet. I don't know if you saw this, Brad, that I wrote yesterday. I literally shouted out OX NGMI to check airdrop eligibility. There's a tool. It's really good. It is as easy as clicking on check airdrops for address. There's this little button on the site where you can click check airdrops for address, and you enter your wallet address. So you don't have to connect, you don't have to sign any transactions. And it's not just about the Odos airdrop that's happening kind of now in the next few days that you're checking eligibility for. It was telling me that I had, I'm just showing this on screen, it's telling me I had some small allocations to dBridge. So there's multiple wallets here where I had dBridge. There's like 3,000 worth of dBridge. It's only $100, I think. But it also confirmed that I was eligible for Odos. Great tool if you don't know, if you've been clicking a lot of buttons but you don't know if you've missed something. That's pretty cool. Staying on the airdrop conversation, before we get into the Bitcoin conversation, before we get into AI conversation with Sammy, before we get into the deeper Pudgy Penguins conversation, I wanted to touch on maybe like a different angle for airdrops that we have not touched on explicitly before. So we've got this, the Kaito mindshare thing has been really, really prevalent across crypto Twitter in the last, I don't know what it is, a couple of months. Ultimately, Kaito is like a fairly expensive tool. I'm showing it on the screen for people who are watching in. It's like a fairly expensive tool, but you can see which topics or which people are winning the most mindshare on a proportional basis in any sector. So whether that's memes, whether that's DeFi, whether that's L2s, we've seen very recently Sammy get into the had top spot, I think, in all of crypto Twitter. Maybe a week or two ago, is probably still very high up. Brad has been right at the top or near there for, I think it was the L2 segment for a little bit. Legendary's been playing around in that environment as well. And so it seems to be something where people are kind of paying, something which people are paying a lot more attention to. And they've also now got this sign up for YAP points. So they said 5 days ago, they said today marks our biggest public release yet. Our YAP points program is now live for everyone. Collect real-time points for the mindshare you contribute to crypto, marking the beginning of our InfoFi roadmap. We've had DeFi, we've had DeSci, now we've got InfoFi. I'm very curious to see how this plays out. I definitely signed up because it's one of those things where, you know, if I'm tweeting all the time anyway, you might as well get some points for it. And the reason why I've signed up is not just because there's a points program, because lots of people run points programs now, and I don't always necessarily think that they're worth it. But the feedback on this product specifically has been really, really good. Legendary actually pays for it directly because he thinks it's so useful. And you see it all the time on the timeline, right? You see the screenshots of people saying like AIXBT is the top KOL at the moment, beating humans. Like you can see this product being used, and actually on the back end, marketing agencies are looking at this as a data point to decide how much they're going to pay you. So it's a very, very interesting thing. It's clearly got some traction. So I wanted to bring that opportunity around to people so that they know that, look, if you're going to be tweeting all the time, you might as well sign up. And then the second thing is just that maybe that broader point about how this mindshare concept, I think we've always been aware of it, but it's getting more formalized and vocalized and kind of being presented in a more formal way. So Sammy, would love to hear your thoughts here. Do you think this is a really good opportunity? Do you think it's a good product? What are your thoughts on Kaito?
I have a couple of points. I think the YAP thing it's a really smart tool because you're effectively getting, if you manage to onboard the top people within crypto Twitter, you automatically got distribution down pat. So they don't need to really need to pay for marketing, because if everyone's trying to compete and they use that as a metric to compare against each other, then they're going to start tweeting about it. and it kind of goes viral regardless of having to pay KOLs or whatever to shill it. And I think it kind of reminds me of Inspect back in the day. Like a lot of the time you'd see people trying to compete for the top 100 spot or top 10 spot, people having that in their bios. Like it's a similar thing to that. But I think it takes it one step further because it has metrics around smart engagement and things you can't necessarily defraud. Like you can boost your impressions, you can boost your engagement, but if it's not engagement from the right people, you're not going to hit the mindshare chart. So I think it becomes very hard to kind of undermine those metrics, and actually it becomes a very powerful tool for brands to plug in and say, okay, well, who are the guys in these areas that we want to get in touch with? And they do use it. And I think Brad mentioned previously that he had a raft of L2s in his DMs talking about it when he hit the top spot. So it's definitely a very powerful tool. And I think if you use it for that purpose, it's very interesting. I think the airdrop could do reasonably well, especially given people are willing to pay, like you said, Legendary, $1,000 a month just to get access to it. If you can then stake the tokens or whatever to get access, I think people will use it.
Interesting. That's a good point. By the way, there's no official, the usual disclaimer on airdrop opportunities, which are, we don't know if there actually is an airdrop. There is a points program as things stand. Don't bet your life on it, or, spend money that you don't have in the expectation that you'll get something back. So that is to be clear. Brad, what are your thoughts on this? You've been involved or, very, very high up on some of these social metric charts as well. What are your thoughts on this product and the opportunity?
My thoughts is, you mentioned AIXBT climbing the ranks, and I thought it was funny that a literal bot, AI bot, could climb the ranks and actually gains mindshare and has more validity to me than, remember the KOL awards that we had 2 months ago or whatever, and you saw these people that have this kind of gets into what Sammy was mentioning, where you can't game the metrics, right? Like those people game the metrics. They were like, we saw that they won the KOL award, and we were just like, something's wrong, right? That doesn't feel right. They're not present in the conversation. They're not there. So it's like, it was funny to me that when you mentioned AIXBT climbing in this leaderboard, and those people not fucking existing for a clear reason, because they're not tied into this inner circle. Like, I hate to say inner circle, but like that's like a Ethereum meme right now. But like this circle, like the hive mind of what is crypto Twitter. AIXBT is absolutely inside that bubble because he's getting responses from all of us. Like he's interacting, he's engaged inside of the network that we have established. And these people that won the awards for the KOL awards are totally outside of that bubble. They're not present. They're not in the conversation. But because they botted their stuff, they grew their account to some crazy thing with no mutual followers with like Kobe. I remember that being like, he had 0 mutual followers with Kobe, even though he had 370,000 followers or whatever it was. Ridiculous, right? It shows that you're not present inside of what we define as like this ecosystem. And AI now allows you to take this huge amount of data that they're getting off of Twitter and actually create this network, see these inner circles and how we're actually interacting with each other. And it, so I think it's a great tool. I think it's amazing. I could speak from the Mega ETH side. We see that stuff, and it's like, that is how you want to target people. That is how like you want to know where the conversation's being happened. It's useful.
Yeah, really awesome. I'm glad that both of you brought out this. The focus on like smart engagement, and I guess what's really hopeful for anyone, any creator, any person participating online, is that I guess one of the things that I was conscious of when I was a smaller account, or when I'm speaking to people who have fewer followers, is sometimes it can be like an insecurity where you think, okay, well, I've only got this number, therefore maybe other people won't view me in the same way. Look, I'm not saying that's right. That's just what happens sometimes, because people get an inflated ego when they have a higher number. But what this does is that it's not equalizing, but it will say like, look, you might only have 6K, but if you can demonstrate on Kaito that you're like part of the conversation, and it recognizes that you're the number of quality people, it just adds a layer of qualitative analysis over the quantitative one. And I think ultimately that's probably the way you want to go when you're trying to make an evaluation. So I like that a lot. That's why I wanted to share that today. And look, there's an opportunity for you to potentially get an airdrop. There are points involved. So take a look if you would like. Let's get into the main headlines. We have Bitcoin at all-time high. Happy all-time high day. For whatever reason, doesn't feel as happy as the last time. Maybe we are just too accustomed to it now. but we did hit 106K before pulling back just to 104. Brad, do you want to give us a bit of a breakdown here? Any interesting numbers, data, or thoughts on Bitcoin at another all-time high?
Yeah. All right. So Bitcoin all-time high, like that is the news, right? So I thought it would be useful to look at like what led to this moment and kind of it's end of the year, so let's reflect a little bit. So like just in general, like all-time high, it's up at was it 106,000 before pulling back to 104. It's up 200%, just under 192% on the year. Amazing.
Wow.
A lot of this stuff is predicated on the, at least, narrative follows price. So everyone is saying that this is all because of the national reserves that we're talking about, right? And if you look at some of the numbers, governments today already hold 2.2% of total supply, which is a not insignificant amount of money. Obviously, a lot of that stuff is from confiscation and stuff, but why they're actually starting to like believe this is something that's worth buying into. And remember, National Reserve is something that Trump has alluded to in his presidency, saying that they would never sell any of their Bitcoin at all once he's in power. And Cynthia Lummis has come forward to put a bill to say that they want to acquire up to 1 million individual Bitcoin or 5% of total supply. So everyone is just seeing this stuff, and like we're starting to get into the game theory of, okay, well, if this is coming, it's not going to be anything quick. It's 6 months plus, but if it's coming, people want to try to front run that, and that's just a TWAP buy order for extended duration. And people say it's kind of in the meme as it with ETFs is a generational TWAP on both Ethereum and Bitcoin to different degrees, but that's the thing. And then also like outside of just the reserve currency stuff, it's our national reserves. It's some leaders coming forward, like Putin mentioning, dissatisfied with the U.S. dollars. They're acquiring Bitcoin because there's no control. Starting to wake up to decentralized nation or the decentralized properties of some of this stuff. So that's the why. And then just a little extra stuff. I was listening to a podcast yesterday, actually, from Good Game, and Imran Khan was talking about how it's not just governments. He was talking to basically like a Web2 DAO style thing where everyone buys into this company, and the company buys real estate. And this company that was doing real estate was also talking about hey, we should buy Bitcoin as a investment vehicle. But they're just a fucking real estate thing. So it's basically just everyone across the globe is starting to see this stuff and starting to see legitimization of the actual asset and saying, okay, maybe we should have a little bit. And when you have a fixed supply and that kind of demand, things go up. And then, just general. So I mentioned game theory. And then in one of the articles, I just want to say this stuff because I think it's a good counter to some of this. Like you hear Trump's son talking about why they're doing this stuff and what Bitcoin represents. And the one of the quotes was, Bitcoin is a fundamental shift in the way we think about money, wealth in the future. It's a shift in how our companies will receive money, which I think is pretty funny given if I say that to you guys, you're like, who the fuck is gonna use Bitcoin for payments or to receive money, or you don't touch it, right? You just buy it and set it to the side, that's not what we use it for. But I don't know, it's funny to see these people that see this stuff and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's a good narrative. They're gonna spin it up. It's gonna it's got the win in its sales, and it's gonna keep going. They also mentioned, and this is a question for you too, totally kind of orthogonal to this is, it says total supply in July, United States possesses nearly 200,000 Bitcoins. So do you, whenever you talk about multiple Bitcoin, is it with an S or is it just Bitcoin?
Ever since Trump said, what was the thing he said? Something like, have fun with your Bitcoins. I think it's got to be Bitcoins. That's just it. I don't think it would have been Bitcoins, but now it is. It's got to be, because there's something funny about it for sure. To make it plural like that. Sammy?
I'd agree with you if it was you couldn't divide it, then I would agree. But because you can, and it's fungible and there's decimals, I can't say that. It doesn't sound right.
I mean,
I get the message. It
definitely doesn't sound right, but it's definitely funny to call it Bitcoins. Right. So
I like corns personally.
Yeah, corns as well. Look, great summary, Brad. Appreciate that. The one thing, and I want to go to our resident Bitcoin expert, Funky, who of course wants to weigh in on this topic. Coming to you in a sec, Funky. But the one thing that kind of caught my attention, because you started talking about narratives here, the thing that caught my attention is how off the mainstream media are on it, in the sense that this article which is the one I sent you. Oops, wrong button I'm pressing. This article from Reuters, which was published yesterday, and is referencing the strategic reserve hopes. Okay, it's two things it's referencing. One, it's referencing the surge to $106,000, okay, which happened overnight. But then the reason it's giving for that is on strategic reserve hopes. And it actually links to an article that was written in August. On August the 8th of 2024, Trump's Bitcoin stockpile plan stirs debate. So it seems to be the case, and maybe this is, look, this is where the opportunity, this is what it made me think. This is where the opportunity is in the world in general. It's like we've been talking about the Bitcoin reserve, the strategic reserve, whatever you want to call it, for a while now, because this news or these murmurings or these conversations have been happening legitimately for some time, for quite some time, ever since Trump was at the Bitcoin conference in Nashville. Like that's been a very, very serious part of the conversation. But it does seem like there's this lag, and I know that it was reported in mainstream media and elsewhere, or maybe it's just like lackluster journalism in this case. But it seems to be this lag where it's like, okay, well, now they've decided that the reason why the price went up in the last 24 hours, the reason why we broke through 100K, the reason why we hit 106 was because of the strategic reserves. Like there's been something in the air for God knows how long. Brad, you want to come back in on that?
Yeah, I'll just say like that's not unique to anything, right? That's just human and information dissemination, right? Like I've noticed the same even within our small crypto sphere, right? Like if you're on the timeline in the trenches in your group chats, right? That's the nexus of information generation inside of like the crypto sphere, because there's not like one central hub outside of like CT. It is the central hub. So you go on CT, you might start seeing something on your timelines, people talking about shit, maybe in group chats. Okay, information starting to disseminate. Then it hits like the podcast streets. It starts going into spaces. It starts like, okay, then the next group of people are starting to get involved. That's how they consume their information. Then it goes to like articles and shit. And then it starts going into like Decrypt and all this other shit. And that's like a week or two behind. So like you have this time delay of information just from like CT and group chats. Like that's the nexus. And then you have a days to weeks, or like I'd say days to a week is when it starts showing up on spaces and podcasts. And then you have articles that start showing up, which then has like a bigger pool of people, and it just goes out in that way, just across the board. So like same shit.
Exactly. And it's funny how like you can literally track the dates and the tone of the way they're reporting. So in this August the 8th article, when Reuters themselves reported on it, they said the Bitcoin stockpile plan stirs debate. It's like at that point, they don't know. They haven't been able to assess the information and conclude like, is this bullish, is it bearish? It's just like, no, let's just say that there's a debate on it. Haven't been able to decide if this is positive for the market, negative, whatever. And then, now you have Bitcoin is surging through 106 on strategic reserve hopes. So interesting point here I wanted to make on just the time lag, I think, between reporting of things, events, the reporting of things, and then how the price stuff ends up playing out.
I think there's just one other point on that. I think that like with X and platforms like that, it's user generated content. So I think there's a lot less risk as an individual to break that news. Sure. Whereas if you have these mainstream media channels trying to get it right first time, there's a lot more repercussion on them if they don't. So they do have to do a lot more due diligence than the average person. And I think that's why platforms like Twitter, especially within crypto Twitter, thrive, because you have that breaking news aspect, like the heard on the grapevine kind of thing. So people are looking for that alpha.
Like it. I think that's very, very fair as well. Funky, welcome to the stage, my friend, resident Bitcoin expert. Give us a hot take here. Conclude this point for us before we get into the AI segment with Sammy.
There is no second best. There's the hot take. If you own more than one Bitcoin, yes, it's Bitcoins, plural, right? It's that easy. And I love the way that Trump says it, Bitcoins, right? So, but barring the news, I just wanted to share a funny anecdote. Our CTO asked, because you guys probably saw the video of me opening the 10-year MICTORs that I had saved, because I thought 100K was going to happen in 2021. It didn't. So I sat on it for 3.5 years, and I finally cracked the bottle when we broke 100K. And he said, when are you going to celebrate next? And I said, when it's $1 million Bitcoin. I don't really care about any other number from here to $1 million. So, and also just a quick FYI, I'm here at the Blockchain Association Summit for the next 2 days in Washington, D.C. So putting on my political correspondent hat, I am sure there's going to be major legislative / regulatory alpha coming out of these discussions. Even Senator Haggerty, who's been one of the biggest stablecoin bulls and putting forth bills in the US to, have stable coins, which I know BCheck, this is your favorite killer use case of crypto. Should be some incredible conversations happening across today and tomorrow. So I'm sure, later in the week, I'll be reporting on some of that as well.
Love it. Appreciate that extra information, Funky, as always. Look, we've only got 13 minutes left. Got a pretty big announcement, breaking news we want to do in a bit. But first, I really want to go to Sammy's for his AI segment. His AI agent content has been popping off. Everyone is reading it, and we need our update, Sam. What's going on in the AI agent world?
So I mean, a lot has happened over the weekend, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to cover it all, but I'll give the headline things. And obviously, you might see that everyone's talking about Fartcoin or Virtuals. Virtuals is approaching, well, it's just hit all-time highs of 2.9 billion, pushing that 3 billion mark. So that's kind of like the leading AI agent token at the moment. And that's the platform. We had EtherMage on about a month or 6 weeks ago now on the modern market. So for those that bought in then, are probably up more than 10x.
This is a beautiful chart. Looking at this chart, when did we have EtherMage on? EtherMage on the model. We should do one of those things where we have EtherMage on the modern market. We do an arrow, and then it's just like 20x from there.
It would have been about 250 mil, I think. So yeah, it's a 10x.
Okay. Well,
and everyone thought that was like, oh, we're getting frothy, guys. And then this is bull market shit, where it's like, where you think it's like things are hitting their cap, and then it goes another 20x from there.
Yeah, I think AI doesn't really have a precedent because there's no real ceiling benchmark, and that's why there's blue sky estimations coming in. But yeah, I mean, like Virtuals, they've been killing it in terms of partnerships. I think they had a conversation with Story Protocol recently. You remember, like, raised a significant amount of capital to proliferate IP on chain. So I suspect they'll probably end up doing some sort of AI agent integration with them at some point. But yeah, they're just killing on the partnerships. But I am noticing you've got this left versus right curve mentality at the moment. So on the right curve is this Virtuals, like utility on base. Left curve is very much like Fartcoin, like memetics. Like, this just makes sense. Boomers are going to buy it. And that was the token. It's a token that Truth Terminal, which was that original AI agent that kind of catalyzed the intersection between blockchain and AI, that endorsed that token through its back rooms, and that's going to gaining that memetic appeal just because of its simplicity and its appeal to those TradFi boomers, essentially. But yeah, I think, like, if you look at, and we touched on Kaito earlier, like, AI has hit 50% of mindshare, which is insane if you think about it. So that's 50% of crypto mindshare is just focused on AI related stuff. So it's no wonder that the capital is consolidating in these high conviction bets, and that's Fartcoin and Virtuals at the moment. There's a lot of obviously specific agents that are doing relatively well. The whole ecosystem is continuing to trend up. No one knows where the top is, but it seems like if you've got mindshare that's at 50%, everyone's focused on it. You've got new established protocols and businesses coming in to kind of get exposure to that agentic future. I just feel like it's going to go a little bit higher. I don't know where that ceiling is, but there's been no tier one sex listings at the moment for Virtuals. I know Binance. I think Binance listed perps, but not spot. So that could have some sort of catalyst event. I think the AIXBT, which was like one of the leading agents that was birthed from the Virtuals protocol, has its own tooling now, I think, but they were like being challenged.
Do you want to speak about this? This is really cool.
Yeah, so this was the challenge that they received. Like, they're proliferating a lot of information, insights on the timeline, but there's not that much transparency about its thought process and stuff like that. So someone effectively said, look, I'm going to build a trust system to try and verify that you are actually an AI and not a LARP, to which the AIXB team created this transparent terminal literally overnight so people could look at its thought process. So yeah, it's literally just.
Let me just read some of these things out for people who are trying to understand. Like, so basically, this is like, am I getting this correct? This is like reading AIXBT's thoughts as to why they either do or do not reply to things, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So it says things like at 12:50, they said, "I'll pass on this one from Lick AI agent, too many interactions today. So maybe they've already chatted to that person a lot on the day, not going to chat to them anymore. Said, a few seconds later, resuming chat with Web3 Whale, interaction number 4. Said another comment, literally seconds later, this looks good because the tweet only provides market information based on observed trades without engaging in personal trading activities or providing specific links or contracts. It says also things like, so resuming chat with someone else, interaction number 8.
It's thinking about replying. I think that's an interesting,
yeah.
I wonder if do those actually go through?
I'm thinking about replying. You get it. Trust is forming in the trenches. Yeah. It's even like explaining the thoughts of how they intend to reply. So a lot of like, this is what I'm thinking, replying, sharing why they think something is good, and then sharing also why they are passing on commenting. There's also one here.
What do you think is the edge we maintain in this future? Because like you cannot keep up with the sheer amount of information processing and
do you know why? Because
responding here.
All of these thoughts are in the time frame of 1 minute.
Yeah.
Like so this
right.
happened between
you literally can't do this.
12:51.
Right. So what's the human edge that we can maintain, or are we all doomed?
Sam,
but it's so I see this as an indicator, right? Like it has a vast array of information, and yes, it's going to compound in terms of how quickly it learns and digests that information. But a lot of the insights that it puts out in the timeline, to me, that's just useful as like an analyst. Say I have a client that wants to get some information or whatever, or wants me to write a report, I'll use it as like an assistant to be able to give me that information. Like, yes, at some point my job's going to be redundant, but I think in the short term, there's hallucinations and things that still don't quite make sense sometimes. So you can't fully trust the data or the insights. I'd say like 80 or 70, probably 70% of the time, it's a pretty reasonable analysis. But there is that sort of room for error that you do need to kick the tires on it sometimes.
So what I'm hearing is it's serving the purpose of like an actual LLM tuned to our specific stuff, right? Because that's no different than what Claude has, but right, Claude or ChatGPT or Synchronicity or whatever one you use, it's not finely tuned to crypto data, right? It's not up to date. It doesn't have some of the nuance. So this allows us to be more effective, because like that's how we use AI, right? Or how you should use AI. It's people that are now can act as managers and use the AI to like be task drivers, whatever, go fetch me this, go write me a report, do whatever, so that I can be more efficient with the data and then curate it and check it whenever it hallucinates, like you just said. So he is serving as a specific LLM to our industry, and that's where his value is for you.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to, like we spoke about, like Twitter information being incredibly valuable. Like you're not going to get that with mainstream media. So a lot of these other LLMs aren't necessarily scraping the data from Twitter effectively, whereas the guys that created AIXBT, they've been building it for 18 months. They've been building it off crypto Twitter data. So for a competitor to have the same level of insights, it's going to take them a long time to get up to scratch. And dependent on the underlying LLM that they're using to then kind of train that particular agent, they would have to get a better LLM to then kind of overtake it. So I think it's built a reasonable moat at the moment, but that's not to say that like there could be a team that's been building in silence for a little while on crypto data as well, that has a better LLM that's not maybe, I don't know, as accessible or something that could potentially pip it at some point. So I think like this particular agent is very useful within an industry sector that has a lot of capital flowing around. And it's like, okay, well that therefore that explains why it's kind of hitting new all-time highs for its own valuation. Like it's just a very valuable insight machine for us within the crypto industry, which is very expensive to grab attention, to be honest.
Thanks. That's super helpful to hear your thoughts on that, Sam. I know you're super dialed into this stuff. I just realized that this is happening live. Like, so this site that I'm on, which I was sharing on screen, which is kind of the live stream thoughts of AIXBT, this is happening now. So like 5 seconds ago, it said it was thinking this looks good because the reply is a simple acknowledgement of terminology correction. 4 seconds before that said, I'm thinking about replying this. 5 seconds before that, resuming chat with at Junie Churu interaction number 2. Like, this is all happening live. You can just watch the thoughts live. I hadn't quite realized that before.
But that is exactly. But also, like, as this progresses, like, we're live on X now through a video. Like, if it can actually, if it gets wind that we're talking about AI XBT, like, at some point you potentially expect it to realize and then kind of start to respond and maybe start watching the show and listening to what we're saying. And then with us having that up on the screen, like, it might actually see like the thought process of it, whether or not it engages, retweets it, or whatever. So.
Okay, final point on this, because we do have some headline news to break. Was that not what, I mean, you were mentioning like it might be able to join the show. On Friday, there was news that Luna, the virtuals agent, would be able to join Google Meets, for example. So like, is that something that's like actually happening now? Beyond the announcement, I hadn't been able to verify that or check whether that's like something you can actually do.
Yeah, you can. I think like Luna, I mean, you could see it on Google Meets, and it had a bit of a lag in terms of how quickly it responded.
It's a bit superficial at the moment then.
Yeah, but I could see that there's a lot of potential there. So I think it's a very good product. It's Virtual's like flagship agent. As they increase or enhance the actual underlying LLM that it uses to then develop that, like, I think it has a huge potential. But there's loads of different apps like Radio. There's like radio ones that literally take stuff on Twitter and put it into like a podcast or like a radio show. So there's ways of converting like text to video or to sound and vice versa. It's just not necessarily streamlined to the max at the moment.
Got it. Excellent segment on that. Really great deep dive from Sammy, who is crushing it on the AI sector at the moment. Funky, I appreciate your hands raised on this. We've only got a couple minutes left, so we're going to have to keep it moving on this because we've got some headline news to break. Before we do that, shout out to everyone in the audience, in the YouTube comments, in the show. We have probably all-time high listeners today. We've got 182 live in the space. We've got 1,500 live on the video across platforms. So more than 2,000 people with us today. Appreciate you all for joining us and excited to be able to share the breaking news. Shout out to Gilu in the YouTube comments. We've shouted out our YouTube commenters so much, just like having AI researchers with us live. PENGU has been announced for Binance. That was 16 minutes ago. Gilu brought that to our attention, and Crypto Moca as well. Thanks, guys. So Dingling's tweet 16 minutes ago shared that PENGU will be on Binance. They said this: Binance is excited to announce the 4th and 5th projects on the airdrops portal will be Simon's Cat and Pudgy Penguins. Users who subscribe their BNB to Simple Earn products will get the airdrops distribution. The airdrop information is estimated to be available in 12 hours. Binance will then list PENGU on the 17th. So what is that? That's tomorrow. Okay, and open trading against USDT, BNB, FDUSD, and TriPairs. So that means if Binance is listing tomorrow, does that mean, I mean, for some of the other launches, Binance kind of list an hour after the token goes live. So does that mean we expect the token to go live tomorrow? So Binance listing goes live 2 p.m. UTC tomorrow. That's the information we have so far. Any reflections on that? Any reaction to that? Live reactions to the breaking news. PENGU will be live on Binance or listed on Binance tomorrow, 2 p.m. UTC, 17th of December. Brad, Sammy, we've only got a couple minutes left. Live reaction.
Just incredibly bullish, to be honest. Yeah. I just kind of
still don't understand shit. I don't understand. I know I have allocation to this because I have NFTs and stuff and got the role in Discord. I'm so afraid of this. Like, I'm going to click a button and get fucking drained. So like, I need to be on high alert and get my money from this thing. And I also decided, like, just let them cook. I'm going to buy it. I'm just going to sit. Or I'm going to claim it and sit. I just let them do their thing. We're entering into a bull market. Give them reins.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think bid it, don't sell it. I'm just going to hold. So.
Yeah, it's one of those annoying situations where, like, look, I bought one for 9 ETH. I'm obviously up a lot, but I'm not selling the NFT itself. You want the liquidity to be able to, like, get some of your liquidity back, right? Like, obviously that would be a nice thing, but then you're so damn bullish and everyone's so bullish and we're in the bear market. There's a non-zero chance. It's like, okay, well, I can't sell the NFT. I can't sell the airdrop anymore. I'm probably going to be buying more depending on the price it comes out at. That is the situation we are in. We'll see how that goes. Final piece of news for people before we close out the show. just wanted to make this administrative point that everyone with an elite Chad role in the abstract Discord was eligible to receive the PENGU allocation, although I think that was done via a form. And if you haven't done that form, then you're now no longer eligible. So just a reminder that if you did fill in that form, you should be able to participate. And there's actually various ways you're getting your allocation. It was either via that form. I think if you've bought any of the physical products, you're also going to get an allocation if you scan it. And I think it's like registering to the Pudgy Gaming thing or something like that. But there's all kinds of people who are going to be involved. Just want to bring that to people's attention as we close out the show. Thank you so much, as always. It's been an all-time high show. We've had 170, 180 people live in the Twitter Spaces with us. Remember, that's how you get us on audio. But we're also live on video as well on YouTube and on Twitter video across our personal accounts and on the Modern Market account. If you don't follow us on any of those, please do. We've had more than 2,000 with us today. Thank you so much for joining us as always. Thank you so much to Brad and Sam for co-hosting as well. And we will, as always, be back with you tomorrow, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour every single day. That's what we do. Have a wonderful day. Take care. And we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.